You're listening to Democracy Now! On We FM 106.3, the Power Talk. My name is Mudiaga Asagwa. Now, there was a heated exchange between Nigeria's Communication Minister Adebayo Shitu and the presidential aspirant Omoyele Sowore on a public affairs radio program in Ibadan. This happened on Saturday. Now, the program managed by Premium Times correspondent held on Fresh FM Ibadan, owned by foremost broadcaster and musician Yinka Ayefele. Now, the interview had barely kicked off when the debate became heated. Minister, it is you, or it is great to see you. I'm beginning to act like a theater artist, but don't worry, spare me, I'm the actor here. Now, this is the minister of an outgoing regime. The Buhari regime will be kicked off power by 2019, and Mr. Sowore said shortly after the program began. He had barely concluded his introductory statement when Mr. Adebayo Shitu fired back, saying the Sahara Reporter's publisher is a dreamer. Now, I don't know if it's a daydreaming or night dreaming thing, but I've just been told it's a dreamer. Now, by your wish or by God's wish, he asked, you're just dreaming. You are a daydreamer, he said in response to Mr. Sowore's claim, to which the presidential hopeful replied by saying, by the wish of the people of Nigeria, sir, it's not a dream. It is a realization you'd wake up to on February the 15th. What gives you this particular confidence? Oh, I'm talking to is Mr. Sowore himself. Good morning to you.
Thank you for bringing me to your studio, and it's a pleasure to be here. And good morning, Nigerians. I've been in the business of public opinion molding. I've been in the news business for 12 years. I can tell, having been through 7 presidents in Nigeria, that I could tell when the president is going out of office, by their own design, by their own calculations or miscalculations. So I had to let the minister know and prepare himself for the end of the regime, and in a democratic way. So it's just as simple as that. Right. We just had to tell him the truth. And I'm also in the business of telling people truth, even when they don't want to hear it.
All right, now you sound like Nostradamus, but I'll try to make everyone understand. We have some other analysts right here in the studio. I have Fidelis Nongo, who is a political analyst of the APC. Fidelis, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, I also have Ezem Collins, is a public affairs analyst. Ezem, good morning.
Good morning.
He's of the NRP, am I correct about that? Okay, I also have Akim Akintayo. He's of the Nigerian Project, is also a member of the APC. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And of course, Anthony Hilebo. Anthony Hilebo is a political analyst of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Anthony, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm going to still come back to you.
Yes.
Now, the debate became heated.
Yes.
Did you have any misunderstanding with the communication minister?
No. I think what happened was that at that point, he became the miscommunication minister. And that tells you the depth of intellect and understanding of the Nigerian public temperature by people in power. He just couldn't handle the fact that he's faced with the realization that they're going to be out of power. People don't take that lightly, because in this country, political power for them is social security. That is where they make up, all their money. That's how they live their lives. They live on top of the world when they're political power. And when someone like me suddenly tells them, you tell them the truth, that you'll be out of office and you need to start preparing, and they're not prepared for that, they get very agitated, they get angry, and you get a pushback immediately. So that was why I was able to maintain my cool, because I'm the one who's going to be taking over from them.
Okay.
So, and they're the ones who are leaving. And that's why he lost his cool. Okay. I had no problem at all dealing with him. And as you can see, as the debate progressed and proceeded, I had a warm handshake with him at the end of the day.
Okay.
Because
now what do you think?
I needed to show him, between me and him, someone was more mature. And I think I was the more matured person. And by that, it showed that I was able to deliver consequence to him. So who was more consequential at the end of the day, the public could tell.
Okay, now I'm wondering, why do you think Mr. President won't come back?
Well, Mr. President is gone to London to seek his usual medical treatment. He has exited Abuja and the country. Nobody knows. They wouldn't even tell you when he's coming back. Secondly,
not just that, we're told also he's supposed to meet with the Commonwealth leaders.
that's true, but that's what they told you. But you see that in their carefully orchestrated press release, they didn't tell you when he'll be returning. I don't know if I'm lying.
Yeah.
But I'm sure with what I saw, they never said when he'll return. But that doesn't mean that he won't return physically back to the country. Secondly, when he declared that he was running, you could just see the reaction from Nigerians. And even the APC operatives here must have been shocked, because they told a lie that in his declaration that it was because of the yearnings and aspiration of Nigerian people that he's seeking a second term. That became a dead on arrival pronouncement. You can see the reaction, especially on social media, on the streets, with the preponderance of opinion on the streets, on social media. All the outlets where we get public temperature and feelers from is that nobody is expecting a second term.
Right.
If there's going to be a second time, it will be in his village in Daura.
Well, let me quickly go to the APC guys now, since you brought them in. Fidelis, you just heard him speak. Said Mr. President won't come back. What's your take?
I like his dreams, and his dreams are plausible. But I'm yet to see any candidate that will beat President Buhari in 2019. And the math is simple. If he's going to beat President Buhari in 2019, he's not going to sleep. And I hope he's prepared not to sleep and really work hard. But it's going to be a difficult task to take President Buhari out of office. Because President Buhari, from 1999 to date, has always gone to bank with a minimum of 12 million votes, whether he won or did not win. It is guaranteed 12 million votes.
Okay.
So he needs to start looking for his own 12 million votes.
Okay.
We have that already in the bank.
Okay.
So this government has achieved in some aspects, has failed in some aspects.
I'm going to have to let him go because he needs to be somewhere.
Yes.
He actually made a pronouncement, and I need to quickly take it from that particular angle. But sure, thank you so much for sparing me your time.
No, I thank you very much.
We're going to continue talking about this.
And I want to say that, yes, President Buhari has 12 million votes that he takes to the bank every year, but that is minus the Shiites that were killed. That's minus Dapshi people. That's minus Plateau, Benue, where his headsmen are running riots. That is from minus Abuja. That's from people who are not getting electricity, water, and people who have not seen any project from him. So when you deduct all of that, your mathematics will shock you in 2019.
I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go.
Hold on.
Yes.
You see, the thing with politicians is, you see, we all politic in poetry, or we rule in prose. Take that to the bank.
And I can also tell you, finally, before I go, this is not poetry. Yes, this is not poetry. President Buhari will lose so bad. You guys will feel good about Jonathan the way he lost.
I have someone with me in the studio who basically stares opinion one way or the other. Yeah, quite a lot of opinion one way or the other. Many people will tell you one or two things that they have about him, but I can tell you it's never boring, the opinions that he stares or the reactions that he stares in people. I've got the publisher for Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore. Good morning, Omoyele. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Just a slight correction. Omoyele. Sowore, and it's nice to be with you in the studio today.
All right, thank you very much for coming. What would you then classify as fake news? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, you have to understand that the dimension to news has changed.
Yeah.
You have to also understand that the outlets where you can get news are multifarious. Now, they're no longer what it used to be. What has happened, and the reason fake news suddenly became important, is that it's starting to shape political decisions.
Yeah.
But the people who were first involved in spreading fake news are actually the government. Governments around the world. Right. What do you think NTA has been over these years of the radio stations that were owned by the government and the propaganda units and arms of government? Fake news has been around forever. Fake news was the reason why there was a Second World War. Hitler used it. But when the government didn't have control over how to spread fake news anymore. They started to get concerned about it. And the reason is that citizens have become newsmakers as opposed to being news consumers.
Right.
And when they make news, people make news whichever way suits them. Sometimes they use it to fight back. They use it to, fight against the government. They use it to achieve their own political objectives and purposes within ways that are you can't even imagine. But here is the truth. At the end of the day, people know the truth, even when news is fake. We have to be clear about when journalists make mistakes.
Exactly.
And you know that one of the most permanent features of journalistic endeavor is you make mistakes, and that's why you go to the New York Times or whichever way you go. Every time they're retracting and changing their stories and apologizing, I think the most permanent feature is that correction section where you keep updating.
Which of course, if they're being mischievous, they hide it.
Yes, they can hide it, but you also can't hide fake news for too long these days because there are too many people working in the news departments around the world. So, there's a lot of fact-checking going on instantaneously. So, what I'm trying to say is that the people that are talking about fake news are not talking about the real news that are in existence. They are trying to dilute and make people feel that even when you get correct news, you should be doubtful about it. And that's why you see anytime you see governments anywhere in the world, involved in regulating how people consume information, just be very, very suspicious about it. And that is why you see Donald Trump is out there championing fake. Everything to him is fake. He's trying to shape the narrative about what to believe.
Yeah.
But it's because he had a lot to hide.
Yes, I know that. So he's deliberately trying to shape
exactly.
the news
and how you consume it and how you believe it.
Yep.
And the moment they're able to get away with that, then they take back the control of news consumption, content creation, and news reporting. That's what government is just practically trying to wrestle news creation or content creation from. They want to take back the monopoly of news again, and this is what has led to the fall of a lot of governments, that people have become very independent creators of content, distribution of content, and consumers of content. We're used to consuming one-track information. If it doesn't come from CNN or Reuters or AP, we don't believe it. But now there's a lot more outlets out. We have a lot more outlets out there that are giving us information. But what we need, what everybody needs to do is to put on what I call their rubbish detector. So because some of the times you see a fake news, you could tell that there's something wrong about it. It's just like you go to a supermarket and you find a product that is supposed to be a designer product and it's very cheap. You start to think, why is this so cheap? You put on your thinking cap. This is what everybody needs to do. You can tell when you see fake news. I can tell it when something is fake. You could just tell the way it is traveling, the way it is couched. It is just what needs to do. People just need to open their brain cells and understand.
You've painted a picture of that unconventional news, and you talked about rubbish detectors and the fact that we should probably be our own rubbish detectors.
Of course.
To sift and perhaps ask even more questions.
Exactly.
There are some apps that even make it easy for you
to fact check. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
However, we've had situations where even the traditional media gets it wrong, not necessarily out of making mistakes, just like you said. The most recent one I recall is the Dapchigal saga, where the government of Yobe announced that the girls had been rescued. And journalists took it to town, saying that, the girls had been rescued by the military. Not one journalist actually reached out to the military spokesperson to say, hey, the governor of Yobe State said, you've rescued the girls and the girls are with you.
So here, this is a perfect example of why you need to have your rubbish detectors on. If you follow Sahara reporters during that period, though, we kept saying that the girls had not been rescued because we're in touch with the families of the girls, we're in touch with the town. We were crowdsourcing information telling us that you can go and look at our Twitter timeline. You understand? We were the first to break the news of the girls' abduction, and then we followed up by saying that it was done by Boko Haram. The government claimed, and that's why I tell you that the people that are in the business of fake news is government. The government claimed that the girls, no girl were touched. None of the girls were touched. They ran into the bush. Boko Haram didn't come for them. They said, even the federal government, I'm telling you, they were actively promoting. So there was an agenda involved. They didn't want people to know that an abduction of that scale had happened. It was the biggest embarrassment and the biggest blow to their so-called, security and defeat of Boko Haram. But if you look at it, though, we constantly kept updating on our Twitter account, on our website, that this is the trajectory of what has happened, including when the girls finally disappeared and nobody could find them anymore. We did not partake in that fake news you're talking about. But the traditional media that should have been trusted just went to town with one side of the story. And we're telling it and pushing it upon the people until they couldn't sustain the lie anymore. So that's the reason why I'm telling you, the government actively were the ones promoting fake news to the populace, claiming that the girls were not abducted. The citizen reporters like us made it very clear. Everybody had to then turn the corner and meet us at the junction of truth.
Right.
Yes.
So this is also what you mentioned, Sahara Reporters.
Yes.
So I'm going to take you up on it.
Yes.
There's been quite the perception that you focus more on the sensationalism rather than the substance of the story. Because now you've basically set up some sort of example, like that in this particular situation, you were the ones who were sticking on the side of truth.
Yes.
But it's not in accordance with the perception generally that has been. Even I have had cause to criticize some of the reporting that has come out of your handle.
Yes.
I generally do not even take it as a major source. I'd have to look for corroboration. That's me being upfront and honest.
That's fine.
So how would you then counterbalance that?
Look,
do you think that perhaps some of this, with this unconventional news media, we're focusing more on the sensational rather than...
No, there's nothing sensational about it. This is what people have internalized because they are listening to government. They are listening. We have two competitors, right? We have you guys in traditional media who feel seriously challenged, right, by our audacity to just come on the scene and take the business in a more serious way than you guys do. You guys are too comfortable in the newsroom. You are comfortable in your little newsrooms and calling government people and government people sending you press releases and you're publishing it. That's all what you want to do. You like your comfort zones. We drag you to your uncomfortable zones or the uncomfortable zones of news reporting. And the response we get from you is like, you guys are sensational. But you have also sidestepped the most important component of our work, which is telling the truth, regardless of whose ox is God. If I asked you now to tell me what is sensational about Dapchi that we did, tell me one thing that's
what I said.
Yes,
in Dapchi, you've painted a picture of reliance on the truth.
Exactly.
Which is why
and that's what because there's ample evidence out there that Sahara reporters were the only ones, right, that came out and said the girls had been abducted and that these are the number of girls. When the government eventually admitted that there were abductions, they kept shifting the numbers. First they said it was 76, but we had said that there were more than 100. And when the girls were released, and the government couldn't even tell the number of girls that were released, we had told the people that these are the number of girls that were released, including saying that the only Christian girl had not been released. That one was used against us as sensationalizing news. Because they said, why do you claim that the girl was not released because she's Christian? You want to create religious... But that's exactly what happened. She's being held back because of her faith, right? And the government later came back to that. In fact, the presidency issued a statement saying, we condemn the fact that this girl is still being held back because of her faith. So look at another case. 2 weeks ago, we broke the news on Twitter that President Buhari will be going on his annual jamboree again, to the UK. We were, attacked by his BMCs, the people they call the Buhari Media Center, that it's a lie, the president is not going anywhere, and all of that. We said exactly that he'll be leaving early April.
10 days.
No, we didn't say we said maybe for 10 days. We actually said we didn't say 10 days, we said there will be no date of return. And that's exactly what they did when he left. They listed out all his engagements. Nothing said the day he will return. Year before then, which was last year, when all the newspapers and radio stations and TV stations, the so very called, interesting, professional people, non-sensational people, were claiming that.
You're shaking a table, I'm standing.
Yes, I have that. We were here to challenge you. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
When they said President Buhari will only be going for medical treatment for 2 weeks, we said he will be going for 4 months on Sahara Reporters. And that's exactly what happened. Even though when these things happen, the government will go to the biggest possible extent to prove us wrong. So they might reduce it by just 1 day. So it will be 3 months and 29 days. And there are people who come and say, Sahara Reporters lied. And the man returned a day before they predicted. So is that sensationalism or truth?
Right.
So you can give several instances like that. You know, we have so many instances where people say we're sensational. When we reported that Jonathan's wife was dying in a German hospital, what did Ruben Abati say that, oh, you know, forget Sahara Reporters, they don't know what they are doing. The woman came back to the country and said she was dead for 8 days, that she's surprised that she could make it. First, they never admitted that she was even out of the country. Let me give you another one. President Buhari's son. When all of you were reporting that he has been discharged from the hospital in Abuja, we reported that he was in Germany. Then when he came, you guys were celebrating that he had returned, including with a billboard. You never admitted that you were wrong or failed to inform the public. When I say we guys, we are talking about tradition, because you mentioned the word unconventional. You guys are the conventional, we are the unconventional people.
Right.
And you accuse us of being sensational. I'm giving you the definition of sensational.
Right, but
according to your own
you've also had numerous occasions when you've been taken to court. There's even been judgments awarded against you.
No judgment. There was no judgment
for libel.
There's no judgment awarded. Look,
not you as a person. I'm talking about.
No, at the entity. The judgment you are talking about is the Senate president who went and obtained a backdoor judgment. You all of you know that. You know, the moment you enter Kwara State, you enter his bedroom. He can do anything there he likes. That is not a judgment. That is, that is jungle justice or jungle judgment. That's how they do it in Kwara. They just call a judge, please, we want this judgment, and they write the judgment for them, and they present it as judgment. It's a disgrace to the judicial system. And I'm not being contemptuous of the court. I respect the judicial system. But, for something to be legal, it has also to be legitimate. I want to inform people as quickly as possible, as widely as possible, and as informative as possible about something that's happening in their political space and political environment. So what is the operating word in my case? Context. I have to put it in a context that the people can understand. So if you are reading CNN, right, or you are reading Reuters, AP, they have only 700 words devoted to a corruption story in Nigeria. They don't want to mention the name of the man who stole the money because they are all caught up. By the time it goes through all it needs to go through, we don't have any substance in the story. You're just reading something. But in my case, I'm coming from a country where corruption does injuries to people. Each time somebody steals money, a child dies, somebody is denied of the opportunity to have education, libraries are closed down, the water pipelines are, not there, petrol or gasoline pipelines are blown up. So I have to put in all of that context so that the story makes sense to the people who are consuming the story. And I'm no longer producing stories for you to read.
As news.
As news. I know it's news, it's a report, but I'm producing it for you to act upon. Right? So that's why you see all of the energy around stories that we break. All right. Because people know that they can find a piece there that they can use to obtain justice for themselves and to enlighten others about it.
We create ideological divides, especially when you're using falsehood and fake news or sensationalism to do so. Now, I'm talking about Facebook, social media deliberately. Now, how can we get this curbed while striking a balance?
The way to curb it is to first of all rein in fake government, all right? And all the fake promises they make, the fake achievements they put out there. If government goes to, the real job of government is to govern. It's not to regulate
not
to shape opinion. When you see government getting involved in irrelevancies like that, they are wasting their time. I went through military rule in this country.
You were one of the activists.
Several times. And one of the things they tried to do, as you probably read or heard, is that they closed down the Guardian, the Punch for months, closed down the news magazine. They proscribed newspapers. They created what they call a press council. in this country. I think they're still in existence, but it's moribund now. Because it was dead on arrival. The people of Nigeria had moved past regulation of news, right? The real regulators of news now are the Nigerian people themselves, because they are the ones who will reject and accept which news they want to listen to. You can't do anything about that. Even if they close down the internet space in this country today, people will still be talking. China tried it. People should go and learn from China. China created,
their own social
media. It didn't help them. They banned Facebook. They created,
Weibo.
They created walls, that you couldn't get past. But what people did is to create, a workaround against all. Now China has given up, so they should learn. When people are talking about hate speech here, they are not talking about real hate speech. They are talking about how to curb people who are exposing corruption. Some of these laws that you are saying or regulations they want to put in place, they are not targeted at anybody. They are targeted at us, people like Sahara reporters. I thought that you should just have called it Sahara reporters no speech law. You understand? And when I say that, I'm not saying that to overrate the importance, but I'm saying it generically to make you understand that those kind of things we do that circumvents their ability to tell lies is what they are trying to, For example, they could have easily arrested people for reporting that Dapchi girls were kidnapped and covered it up and get everybody scared. Or you saw what they did to the Daily Independent guy for reporting some of the undercurrents of the release of Chibok girls. They got the guy detained. They were muzzling him immediately. They wanted to see his phones, your sources. But journalists are supposed to be protected from those kind of very brazen, oppressive tactics. These are tactics that Hitler used during his own time and caused the Second World War. So the solution of my answer is, look, let the government close down its fake departments, its fake operations, and fake news will naturally fizzle out. Okay. Because fake news can never be legitimate news. And if you and I know now these days, when people tell fake news, they circulate fake photos on Facebook, fact checkers are there. They are self-appointed fact checkers who are out there. They will refute you in 5 seconds. They will tell you, look, your photo is from another place. You can't use it to bamboozle us.
It's time for me to say a very big thank you to Omoyele Sowore. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and please, Nigerians, we have alternative. Right. I'm running for office and I'm running for presidency.